Robredo's office in an executive session on Wednesday. This means the OVP can continue its pandemic response initiatives like the Swab Cab, Bayanihan e-Consulta for COVID-19 patients, and Vaccine Express, which brings coronavirus shots to communities. Garcia adds some projects under the Social Welfare Department will also proceed. The ban is in place from March 25th until May 8th to prevent politicians from possibly using public funds for their campaigns. Robredo's spokesman Barry Gutierrez thanks COMELEC for its decision, saying this will allow the so-called Angat Buhay projects to help more people nationwide. Commissioner Socorro Inting earlier said projects of humanitarian nature are often excused from the public works ban. Rules also exempt disaster relief operations as well as ongoing construction projects. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
On the campaign trail, presidential candidate Ping Lacson and running mate Tito Soto woo voters in the province of Cotabato, where peace and order are key issues. George Quiles joins us live from Milagro and Cotabato. George, tell us about the tandem's plans to resolve armed conflicts in Mindanao.
Opia, the Lacson-Soto tandem is proposing a number of approaches in resolving armed conflicts between different groups here in Mindanao. For groups with existing peace pacts with the government, like the Moro Islamic Liberation Front or MILF, presidential candidate Senator Ping Lacson says it is important for the government to keep its word, especially on the political and economic aspects of the agreement. Lacson adds the office of the presidential advisor in the peace process should speed up the integration process of the armed combatants of the MILF. As for armed groups aligned with the terror group Islamic State, the Partido Reforma standard bearer says they should be held criminally liable based on the provisions of the law.
That's exactly the reason why we should make good with our promises, yung obligations natin under the peace agreements para hindi sila maging disgruntled and they would join the party or yung breakaway party. We have to put a stop to the never-ending, parang vicious cycle eh. But, you know, meron ding obligation, may pagkukulang din minsan ng government kasi yung napag-usapan, hindi na de-deliver.
As for the New People's Army, Lacson says localized peace talks should continue. Lacson and his running mate, Senate President Tito Soto, believe that the concept of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, must continue, but its implementation must veer away from politics. Pia?
George, tell us about the prospects of the Lacson-Soto tandem to get votes in Mindanao, particularly there in Cotabato.
Well, the tandem is banking on the support of their ally, senatorial candidate Manny Piñol. Piñol, aside from being a former agriculture secretary, is a former governor of the province. But Piñol himself says it is not easy to get votes in Mindanao now. He says President Duterte is still has a huge clout here. There's reason why his personal endorsement will definitely really matter. So, as we know, his party, PDP Laban Kusi Wing, has already endorsed the candidacy of Bongbong Marcos and presidential daughter Sara Duterte. But it isn't clear yet, Pia, if the party's choice is also the president's personal choice. Given the situation, Piñol says he needs to work doubly hard to be able to deliver votes for Lacson and Soto. Back to you.
George Quiles there reporting live from Cotabato. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno saying he's not threatened by the PDP Laban Kusi Wing's endorsement of fellow presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos, but Moreno admits the move might have made his campaign more difficult.
Mga pedigree na nga, o sinama pa ng mga pedigree na malalaking grupo sa politika. Siyempre, kailangan maging pakit ako sa taong bayan. Isasamahan nila ako, sasama sila sa hirap ng laban, hindi sa magaan na laban. Kung the reason why it existed is to oppose the dictatorship ng Arab, so the dictatorship, tapos may kasama nila, kaya ko na taong bayan.
Labor leader Leody de Guzman taking a swipe at PDP Laban faction President Alfonso Cusi. De Guzman says Cusi, as Energy Secretary, chose political interest first before addressing the fuel price hike and the energy crisis. CNN Philippines has reached out to Cusi for comment. Still on the elections, presidential candidates making more campaign promises, from abolishing the rice tarification law to extending the term of barangay officials. CN Arcangel reports.
Senator Manny Pacquiao took his campaign to Isabela, the top rice producer in Cagayan Valley. There, he vowed to abolish the rice tarification law if he wins the presidency. He says his administration will also allocate funds for buying palay directly from farmers. Supporters promised to deliver at least 100,000 votes for Pacquiao in the province, which is considered part of the so-called Solid North.
Ang akin naman ay democratic country naman tayo, ang lahat malayang pumili ng mga kandidato nila, at alam ko hindi naman lahat doon kay BBM, mayroon namang talagang naghahangad na tunay na pagbabago, hindi naghahangad para sa isang panggobyerno na traditional government.
If elected president, Vice President Leni Robredo promises to institutionalize the salaries of barangay officials and work to extend their terms from 3 to 5 years. Robredo says these were among the bills she filed when she was still a congresswoman.
Pero ang pinaka-purpose po niyan, para mas palakasin ang mga barangay dahil yung barangay yung nag-aasikaso ng lahat na pangangailangan natin.
Former Defense Chief and National Security Advisor Norberto Gonzales is pushing for oil price regulation among countries in Southeast Asia. He says these could help dictate oil prices in the region amid soaring costs in the world market. On local food prices, Gonzales wants a review of the Agrarian Reform Law, the Land Use Policy, and the Fisheries Act, saying these impede the immediate boost of production.
Kailangan yung food production natin, mapa-enhance natin at the quickest time possible. And what I mean by oil ng food production, hindi lang sa lupa, pati sa tubig.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno returned to Laguna to woo voters from Santa Rosa, Biñan, and San Pedro, while former Senator Bongbong Marcos campaigned in Quezon Province. From Isabela, CN Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
Coming up, investigators are getting to the bottom of a hazing incident in Laguna that led to the brutal death of a grade 12 student. And an internet service provider takes over the Alaska Aces franchise in the PBA. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
Pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay. Kaya dapat always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 coffee mix to ignite my day. Hi guys! Lagi akong focused, active, at extraordinary. Because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 coffee mix, my choice.
Welcome back to Newsnight. Authorities are getting to the bottom of a hazing incident in Laguna that allegedly killed a grade 12 student. 2 suspects are now in police custody. And as Tristan Odalo reports, the victim's family is crying for justice.
The parents of 18-year-old Raymark R.R. Rabutazo recall fond memories of their only son before his tragic death on Sunday.
Talaga po ako para nang mag-blackout na din sa nangyari po sa nakita ng ano ko dahil yan po ay prinsipe sa amin. Walang ginagawa yan. Makinis lang, umalis ng bahay, masigla. Sa loob po ng 2 taon ng ating COVID, ay wala po siyang naging sakit. Yun po talaga kaya ang gusto lang po talaga namin ay katarungan, hustisya. Humihingi po kami ng hustisya para po sa anak ko na madami pang maging pangarap.
RR was a graduating student and dreamt of becoming a policeman. All of this abruptly ended because of a fatal hazing.
Akala ko abutan ko pa yan ako na buhay, na naghihingalo na ganan, o baka isang hinga pa, abutan ko pa, kaya ko pang masabihan o makausap pa. Ay nung pagdating ko doon, sinalubong ko ng aking ama na wala na nga daw po talaga. Nung nakita ko yan ako, wala na ho, bumagsak na ho yung parang damdamin ko na ganon.
According to medical records, RR suffered severe physical injuries such as bruise marks at the legs and head injuries after alleged fraternity rights for neophytes.
Katarungan para sa aming anak na tinanggalan nila ng karapatan mabuhay at maging malaya. Sakit po sa isang ama na nagkaganyan ng aming anak. Nagsosolong anak po namin yan. Mahal na mahal po namin yung aming anak.
Arturo, not his real name, was with RR at that time. He also suffered injuries and wasn't able to walk for a day. He too was surprised about RR's death.
Pare-pares po kaming, ayun po, nangihina po. Gawa po pagkatapos po nung ginawa sa amin. Ito po, may pasa. Tapos hirap din po makalakad. Dati po, gusto ko po kasi nang dati pan sumali po sa ganun eh. Kaso naman po, nung pagsali ko po, may nangyari naman pong problema.
The police are holding 2 suspects and looking for 7 others. The family believes more people were involved in RR's death. Senator Mig Zubiri calls for the strict enforcement of the law he authored, the Anti-Hazing Act. CNN Philippines is still reaching out to the local police on the development of the case. In Kalayaan, Laguna, Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
A spokesperson for the task force dealing with communists is facing 3 new complaints at the office of the Ombudsman. Lorraine Abadoy, also Communications Undersecretary, has been accused of red tagging Vice President Leni Robredo and other groups. Badoy said communist leader Jose Maria Sison's endorsement of Robredo shows she has a, quote, tactical alliance with communist rebels. 26 complainants want the Ombudsman to preventively suspend Badoy and file charges against her. They cited violations of the election law and even the Constitution.
Hindi ito tungkol kay VP Leni, isang biktima na si VP Leni ng red tagging. Hindi ibig sabihin na wala na siya sa poder, wala na siyang culpability or criminal liability anymore. Hindi. Kaya ngayon, dapat mag-isip-isip na siya. Right, Congressman? Yan ang isa nating reason bakit tayo nag-file. Kailangan natin ng deterrence.
Kung gusto ni Yusek Badoy at iba pang opisyal ng NTF-ELCAC na mangampanya laban kay VP Leni o sa Makabayan, dapat magbitiw muna sila sa kanilang posisyon.
Badoy dismissed the complaints as, quote, obvious propaganda of communist fronts and insisted her claims were not red tagging. Complaints have been filed against Badoy as early as 2020. Another grim milestone in South Korea with over 10 million COVID-19 cases reported since the pandemic began. Authorities logged almost 500,000 new infections on Tuesday. South Korea has recorded some of the highest daily cases in the past weeks. Now, with cases surging in Asia and Europe, U.S. health officials are expecting the same scenario. For one expert, time is of the essence to beat the threat of the Omicron subvariant. CNN's Maddie Gaither tells us more in today's Health Minute.
In the UK, new COVID-19 cases are climbing once again, driven largely by the Omicron BA2 subvariant. And top health officials say what happens there tends to play out here in the US about 2 to 3 weeks later.
We better pay close attention to what's going on there.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says the US will likely see an uptick in cases, but not a surge, as BA2 is more contagious than the original Omicron variant. But right now, Fauci says it doesn't seem to be the cause of the UK's rise in hospitalizations.
It's a very interesting situation where the cases are going up, but it does not at this point in time appear to be any degree of severity.
Fauci says BA2 may become the dominant variant in the U.S. today. The CDC said it was the cause of nearly 35% of new COVID-19 infections in the past week, up from about 22% the week before. Fauci cautions the U.S. needs to be prepared for the possibility of another variant in the future. That means building up supplies of antivirals and tests and vaccinations.
We can't just say we're done. Now we're going to move on. We've got to be able to be flexible.
Meanwhile, FDA vaccine advisors are scheduled to meet on April 6th to discuss the possible need for COVID-19 booster shots in the future and whether the vaccine could become an annual shot similar to flu shots. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
In other world headlines, no sign of survivors yet in what has been the worst air disaster in China in over a decade. A China Eastern Airlines flight with 132 people on board crashed in a mountainous area in Guangxi province on Monday. Over 2,000 emergency workers have been deployed to the site, but search efforts were suspended this morning because of bad weather. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the incident. Now, back here at home, many believe learning to live with COVID-19 is the end game of this pandemic, as lockdowns can take a toll on the public and the economy. While people adapt to the new normal amid looser restrictions, a health expert warns a surge may happen again if we let our guard down. Paige Javier has that story.
2 years since the COVID-19 pandemic unfolded, many continue to feel the so-called pandemic fatigue. While some are still cautious here in the country, many are confident we won't go back to square one.
Masarap sa pakiramdam na maluwang na po tayo.
Kakatakot yan, na apektuhan tayo sa ating mga trabaho.
Basta fully vaccinated na, parang kampante na.
The health department says cases are on a slow decline, even as Metro Manila and other areas have shifted to alert level 1. But for some Filipinos living abroad, the tough restrictions are already taking its toll.
Kahit nung nag-zero COVID na yung Hong Kong, stringent pa rin yung measures. So, more on fatigue na talaga.
Cases in Hong Kong have been hitting 20 to 30,000 daily recently, despite the stringent zero COVID policy. Those who can no longer keep up with the measures choose to leave the financial hub.
Umalis na talaga yung mga tao. It's mentally exhausting. Hindi na sila very hopeful na things are getting better. Unless, yun nga, may change of mindset.
In South Korea, one of the model nations in pandemic response, cases are also skyrocketing.
If you look at most of these countries, it's because of the waning immunity and the ability of the Omicron, the BA2, to evade the antibody that is being produced by the vaccine.
Dr. Ronjin Solante says he cannot discount the possibility of another COVID-19 surge in the country.
Now, what I'm worried about is that, yes, we are below 1,000, but we are not below 500. So meaning there is still a slow and creeping transmission in the community.
He emphasizes the importance of getting a booster shot, especially for the vulnerable population. So far, over 11 million people have received booster doses. Solante warns against further easing of restrictions and mass gatherings, especially in the run-up to the elections. He also says Filipinos should continue to wear face masks, and alert level 1 should remain for the next few months. Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
We'll take a quick break, and when we return, Converge is entering the PBA after acquiring the Alaska Aces franchise. Plus, updates on the award season with some big names in music gracing the Oscar stage. Keep it here on Newsnight.
Being a Filipina here in Japan, kakayanin ko ang mga hirap para sa akin mga pangarap. In 1974, nagpunta ako dito sa Japan as a Japanese spouse. I lead for 30 years yung organization for the development of advancement of Negros in Japan. Yung grupo namin nag-reach out sa mga Pilipinos na distressed na kailangan ng tulong. Kasi this is part of our life to serve, to give what we can. Mahalaga talaga magtulong-tulong ang mga Pilipino sa Japan. Kasi walang ibang magtulong sa atin. Gunti tayo mga Pilipino. Mayroon akong resort sa Negros. Yung sweldo nila, yung mga maintenance, napapadala ako monthly sa kanila. Mag-uwi ako, pupunta sa akin na, Ma'am, salamat, graduate ng anak ko. Ma'am, salamat. Nakakain kami. No amount of money that could pay the feeling, the happiness, yung respect, ang love na binigay sa akin. It's not monetary anymore. Ang remittance company, yan ang isang channel na nagdala sa atin na magiging malapit tayo sa ating family. Especially, we have BDO in Japan. Madali ang pagpadala ng remittances. And also, BDO helps me to manage my money properly. Maybe God sent me here. Maybe an instrument to be able to help many people, not only my family. We the women must stand together, be strong enough to be there in time of need of our Filipino community.
Welcome back. The Weather Bureau Pag-asa redefines the meaning of super typhoon and modifies the tropical wind signal system. A super typhoon should now have maximum sustained winds of at least 185 kilometers per hour. It was previously defined as a tropical cyclone with maximum sustained winds of more than 220 kph. Pag-asa explains the Philippines has the highest range of maximum sustained winds for a super typhoon compared with other Asian neighbors like Japan, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Pag-asa also modified the wind threat of each signal number. You can see them on your screens. So far, no cyclones are expected to affect the country in the coming days. The Bureau advises the public to take precautionary measures to minimize heat stress, as well as to optimize the daily use of water for personal and domestic consumption. Well, sports news now. Internet service provider Converge is the newest team in the PBA. The firm officially acquired the Alaska franchise after it went on sale last month. The announcement also comes 4 days after the Alaska Aces played their final game in the league. Former PBA Commissioner Chito Salud will serve as governor of the team. Salud says they have yet to determine if they will retain the core of the Alaska team.
In PBA season 47, Converge aspires to bring to the court a brand of basketball consistent with its revolutionary and entrepreneurial spirit. We have barely 3 months to prepare for the next season. No? I'll be working closely with DK Bachman on this. Together we'll review and assess the performance of the players and the coaches and make a decision soon.
A formal launch is set for April 5th, where Converge will announce its team name. In entertainment news, the Oscars just announced this year's performers, and set to take the stage is Queen Bee herself. Beyoncé is also attending as a nominee for her song Be Alive from the film King Richard. Other performers, including Billie Eilish and Sebastian Yatra, who will sing the Oscar-nominated track Dos Oruguitas from Encanto. The awards night is set for March 28, 8 in the morning, Philippine time. And on to another red carpet, Olivia Rodrigo and BTS won major honors at today's iHeartRadio Awards. The film and vocalist took home 3 trophies, beating out fellow chart toppers Ariana Grande and Taylor Swift for Female Artist of the Year. BTS won 2 categories, including Best Music Video for Butter. But Jennifer Lopez nabbed the night's biggest honors, iHeartRadio's Icon Award. J-Lo also performed her hits, Get Right and On My Way. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines, a first on radio. To bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays, 6 p.m.
Now go above and beyond the headlines.
Followed by Med Talk, Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
Our guests for tonight, two political science professors.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines in all RPN AM radio stations. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m. CNN Philippines Hour.
DYKB Radio
Deciding to conceive is often a big decision, and with recent advances in modern medicine allowing more women to have control over their pregnancies, it has become even more important to know what can affect the success of a desired pregnancy and what you can do to prepare. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and we bring you the knowledge and care you need, especially in this time of COVID-19. You're watching Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Following the onset of the pandemic, births in the Philippines have dropped to some of the lowest in decades. As we continue to live with this pandemic, it's vital to be prepared when planning to conceive safely. Let's welcome Dr. Maria Lourdes Cablik, who is an OB gynecologist, fertility specialist, and medical director of In Vitro Fertilization Davao and Brokenshire Hospital. Also with us is Dr. Romeo Lloyd Romero. He's a urologist at Casimiro Inares Senior Memorial Hospital. Dr. Des, what is the most important factor when it comes to conceiving, when it comes to fertility?
Age is the most important single factor affecting fertility. Age at around late teens and early 20s has the highest fertility potential for women. After that, at the age of 30s and beyond, their fertility potential decreases, such that the younger the mom, the healthier the outcome.
Dr. Rome, pagdating naman sa lalaki, meron bang pinaka-important factor pagdating sa fertility?
For males, no, there are a lot of factors, but the most important is, of course, the quality of the sperm. So in cases that there's a desired pregnancy for the couple, the sperm should be adequate and there's no blockade of sperm. So it's important for the males to have quality and adequate sperm production for him to conceive.
Some factors that can reduce your fertility are things that you can control actually. So Dr. Des, I'd like to ask, aside from age na talagang hindi ito modifiable, what are some of the other factors that can affect the fertility of a woman?
With ovulation, it is important to note that the regularity of the cycle, then commonly you ovulate, you're fertile most of the time. And with the ovulation, timing of sex, okay? You may ovulate, but you don't have sex, so you won't have pregnancy. And another important factor is the body weight. Okay, so that boils down to lifestyle. So as you keep your weight close to your ideal for your body, then we assume and presume that you have a regular ovulation.
Now, in the country, more and more women are getting pregnant in their 30s. Some may even delay parenthood until age 35 or even older. Dr. Lourdes, mostly this is the case because a lot more women are career-driven. They establish their careers first before that of a family. Is this something that women nowadays should take heed on? What is your advice on this?
The common reason for this is the uncertainty or not having a partner, followed by the wish to establish financial security, and that would mean they have to give way to their career and then before having a kids. No, these women are unaware of the age and relation to fertility. So there goes also that the risk also that goes with pregnancy around this age. If you are at age 25, the risk is 1 in 1,250. But if you are at age 40, complications of pregnancy is as high as 1 in 100 women. And speaking of complications, we're referring to hypertension, miscarriage, birth defects, diabetes. So these are the common and also difficult labor.
Now, it's important to remember that while these risks are likelier after 35, maybe 40 years old, this does not mean that all women are affected. Still, certain genetic risks are more evident as women age. Dr. Des, let's talk about this a little bit more. What are some of the genetic risks naman for infertility?
As your age advances, chromosomal anomaly. That is why there is a higher abortion rate when the woman has an advancing age. And this is particularly due to the chromosomal anomaly that goes with ages.
Dr. Des, when it comes to infertility here in our country, para dun sa mga hindi makaka-afford, they find themselves wanting to have a baby, what are the options for them?
Nowadays, they really make the effort to go to the centers or approach doctors regarding the condition. So the very simple step to help this infertile or subfertile couple is just semen analysis. Okay, so that's very accessible, cheap examination. So with that, you can rule out if the male has a problem.
Is this true? Can someone determine kung sino ang may problema, kumbaga? Or is a viable, distinct test really needed to determine which among the couple needs that?
For you to know that you are infertile, first of all, we tag a couple infertile if they are unable to conceive for 1 year. And we also, for some patients who already have a family, either the mother or the father who already had a child but was unable or having difficulty to conceive after a year, that is called secondary infertility. So you wouldn't know until you get somebody pregnant.
Age could affect a woman's fertility, but men may also be the reason for a couple's inability to start a family. Now, more on this when we return. We're in Connection to Healthcare. You're watching Net Talk Health Talk. Infertility may result from an issue with either partner or a combination of factors that prevent the pregnancy. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk. We're together in health. The main symptom of infertility is the inability to get pregnant. There might be no other obvious symptoms. Sometimes women may have absent or irregular menstrual periods. In other cases, men with infertility may have some hormonal problems. Infertility can affect one or both partners. Dr. Rome, let's first talk about the causes for male infertility.
The cause of male infertility is basically sometimes a low sperm production or no sperm production, abnormal sperm function, and the blockade of sperm that goes through the urethra to the cervical os of the female. So that is the cause of male infertility.
Ano yung mga common causes ng abnormal sperm production?
One is varicocele, like I mentioned earlier, radiation in some patients who are radiated due to cancer or anything else. And also more common, infections, ejaculatory issues in patients who had previous surgeries. They can have retrograde ejaculation or obstruction, and also some antibodies that attack against sperm, some tumors, chromosomal abnormalities, patients who have hormonal imbalance, taking medications like anabolic steroid use, and in some males who has a bad lifestyle like smoking, drug and alcohol use, and also in some patients who have uncontrolled weight. So those are the things that could cause abnormal sperm production.
Those who use a bicycle to and from to commute work, are they at risk of male infertility? How about those who say that tight undergarments, the issue between boxers or briefs, are these relevant factors when it comes to the health of the sperm of a male?
Yes, that is correct, because exposure to high heat could also lead to abnormal spermatogenesis in the testes. So these are also valid factors. No, the temperature in the testes should be optimal for sperm production. So this is very valid. So also one of the risk factors for having infertility, aside from the age, aside from comorbid conditions, extremes of weight.
Is this something that happens often? What do parents of children na nagkaroon ng beke, what should they watch out for?
This could be a viral infection, and the patient will have orchitis. So some studies would also say that there is atrophy of the testis in some cases when there's a history of mumps. So like what I said earlier, you wouldn't know unless you try or you get somebody pregnant. So it's a risk factor, like I said, infection. So mumps or viral infection in the testis.
Now, pag-usapan naman natin ang female infertility. Dr. Des, yung mga more common causes ng female infertility here in the Philippines.
For women, we have the uterine factors, okay? So that would mean myoma, especially if the myoma causes bleeding. And then you have this tubal factor. So meaning this tubal, we refer to the fallopian tube that connects the uterus to the ovary which is where the egg is coming from. And thirdly is the egg production, ovulation. So these are the three most common.
Family planning is the information, means, and methods that allow couples or individuals to decide if and when they want to have children. Dr. Des, what are some of the benefits ng family planning?
The time frame for this is around 2 to 3 years, especially if the mom delivered normally, that is vaginally, so she can have a pregnancy after 2 years. But if it would be cesarean section, you can delay it longer, so around 3 years, the earliest. And also, having family planning, this would enable the mom to have an ample time to provide undivided care to the baby, to the husband, and to herself.
One of the more common family planning methods is that of the rhythm method, both for the female, they use it as time. How effective is this? And when it comes to contraceptions for males, are there any other options aside from using a condom?
As a urologist, a short answer that we offer is vasectomy. So for vasectomy, family planning is called family planning because a couple should decide, not only the females. So vasectomy gives the males options, or can be offered options to start with family planning, with cutting the vas deferens.
Sa isang lalaki, kapag naputol ang kanyang vas deferens, nawawala ba ang pagkalalaki niya? Nawawala ba ang kanyang testosterone sa katawan?
It's not demasculinating. So we only cut the cord that transmits the sperms to the penis. But totally, we are not cutting any circulation of the hormones with which most of the males are concerned of. So they think that there will be shortage of male hormones when you do vasectomy, but it's totally not affected.
Now, Dr. Des, pagdating naman sa female contraceptions, what are the safest options available here in the Philippines?
Modern family planning promotes the use of the hormonal, which is highly accessible, affordable, is the use of oral contraceptive pill. So unlike before, you can just go to the health center, you ask for it, then it is given to you. But recently, you have to buy it. So if you don't want to have this medication taken every day, then you can have the option of going to injectable. So you have your Depo-Provera there. So that is given once in every 3 months, and it is also cheap at cost of 150 per vial, and that will give you a protection for at least a quarter. Then you can have this sterilization, so the female counterpart of vasectomy. So this is highly offered in women who had a cesarean section, And then in the repeated delivery through cesarean section, then you can discuss this with your obstetrician. Then during delivery, then the obstetrician will perform the sterilization.
When we return, we'll talk about the treatment options for infertility and much more. Your health is our mission. This is MedTalk Health Talk. Many people are maybe unaware of their infertility problems. They may cause no symptoms and can go undetected during medical visits, and treating infertility can be complicated. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk, where your care comes first. Infertility is often defined as not conceiving after 12 months of regular intercourse without the use of birth control. How often should the couple be trying?
So the idea is to know when is the ovulation date. Some would say to have intercourse during those times. No? So in some cases, I tell my patient to do it every 2 to 3 days. So it wouldn't be difficult to be doing it every day. So that of getting pregnant. So during those ovulation dates. So nowadays, there are apps that they can download that I tell my patient, especially for the female, they just have to log in the menstruation dates, and it would predict their ovulation date. So nowadays, it's very easy to predict when they are fertile.
Is this a factor when it comes to infertility? Meaning, if someone has a problem such as erectile dysfunction, does this affect the quality of their sperm, or is this totally independent?
It's solely independent, but it is also valid to be asked. So in some patients, you have when the erection is treated, they will be able to conceive.
Dr. Des, I'd like to talk about naman the available options para sa mga couples who are trying to have a baby, who are trying to conceive. 1 year na ang nakalipas without success of having a baby. What are their options now?
If there is a problem for the male, then one can have the intrauterine insemination. So the sperm now will be inserted or injected in woman's uterine cavity around the time of ovulation. Okay, so that is one option. But remember, this can only be repeated around 3 to 6 attempts, provided that the injected sperm has reached around 11 to 14 million. So that is where the quantity of the sperm matters. But if ever the quality of the sperm is low, what we mean by low is that less than 5 million, that's an outright indication for assisted reproductive technology, or what you call in vitro fertilization with intracytoplasmic sperm injection.
When it comes to trying to increase the amount of sperm, Dr. Rome, meron bang mga ways, natural ways, to increase someone's sperm count?
So we have to know the cause of the sperm, why it's low, why it is absent. So in some cases, we may give medications to correct the hormones, or in some cases, just to give you an answer on how to have a healthy sperm. So of course, a healthy lifestyle, like balanced diet, somebody is overweight or obese, to exercise or to lower the weight, to control the cholesterol. Because basically, those things are the ones that alter the hormonal imbalance in a patient. So to improve the sperm count, you have to also live a healthy lifestyle. So avoid smoking, avoid drinking. If you're using drugs, it's also good to avoid it. No, so also the use of anabolic steroids, again, you can avoid those things, to improve your sperm count. But basically, it is always problem-based, goal-oriented. So you have to look for the cause of the imbalance.
Dr. Des, can you discuss some other options for having a family, creating a family?
Okay, so the options that we usually recommend today, of course, we have to deal with what will deliver. So with that, we always promote in vitro fertilization after several failed attempts of trying the conventional manner. So if ever a lot of couple cannot afford this intervention, then we would offer quite invasive, and that would be your minimally invasive surgery to overcome the anatomical problem that would help achieve pregnancy.
With that, I'd like to thank obstetrician, gynecologist, fertility specialist Dr. Maria Lourdes Cabling and urologist Dr. Romeo Lloyd Romero. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We'll see you again next time.
Let's get ready to rumble!